Hello YouTube and welcome back to World of Warships with Wadres, and for today's video I am going to be doing a replay for you of my recent attempt, or one of my recent attempts, to complete Operation KillerWhale in the HMS Ark Royal, the Tier 6 Premium Royal Navy aircraft carrier. And let me tell you, this ship is surprisingly capable yet again. Just like in my Last Man Standing video posted a couple of months ago, actually, this ship is incredible at doing this kind of mission. Primarily because a lot of the ships that you encounter are lower tier. In fact, I don't think you even encounter anything that gets above basically tier 5 on the enemy team. And, well, this ship loves just absolutely shredding anything that gets in its way that is lower tier than it is. And, I'll tell you what, I definitely would not underestimate these, ferry swordfish dive bombers, or torpedo bombers. They are very capable at getting the job done. In fact, in some ways, granted this is more against AIs than it is against players, but in some ways, as far as the perspective against players, I think they are too easily underestimated because they are so slow that I guess a lot of people discount them just because they don't think anything can really be done. But I have learned very quickly that as long as you use all of the available captain skills to improve the aircraft survivability, torpedo speed, etc. and so forth, these aircraft can actually turn out to be rather devastating. Yes, they are still the slowest CV aircraft in the game at the moment, don't get me wrong. But you can actually get a reasonable amount of speed out of them and have a fair expectation of doing a considerable amount of damage with them. In fact, with all of the proper commander skills and everything, as well as the CV upgrades implemented, these aircraft are running, I think it's 100 knots at the baseline. So, yeah. I mean, with speed boost and everything, these aircraft get up to 136 knots, which, with all of the, and again, this is after all of the upgrades, everything, and 136 knots, while again, it isn't the greatest, there are certainly aircraft in the game that have cruising speeds that approach that without the speed boost, but 136 knots is nothing to sneeze at. It is definitely very capable of getting to and from targets in a reasonable chunk of time, and it can actually make this aircraft very formidable in the right hands, especially when you consider the size of her dive squadrons. She has 9 aircraft strike squadrons, which is stronger than most of the other aircraft carriers at Tier 6, which usually have 2 aircraft dropping 2 torpedoes in a drop, and they've only got squadrons of 6. So this is a squadron of squadron of 9, and each attack run is dropping 3 torpedoes. This is the most strike potential of any of the Tier 6 aircraft carriers once the aircraft actually get to and from target. So it can really catch you off guard if you're not paying a whole lot of attention to her. And I think that's the one thing that players or people are kind of not really aware of with the Ark Royal. They just look at her as being, oh yeah, slow aircraft, low survivability, maybe, but they don't stop to think that maybe they're giving her a little too little credit. They're certainly not accounting for the fact that because these aircraft are so slow, it's very easy to just kind of write her off early on just because you think she's not going to be that much of a threat, I suppose. But, and granted, my experience could very well differ. I think that this ship can actually, from a player-to-player standpoint, granted I have not played PvP, I wouldn't know honestly. Granted, if she's bottom tier against tier 8s, yeah, of course she'll suffer. Any aircraft carrier that is taken in against any tier 6 aircraft carrier that's taken in against top tier 8 AA is going to suffer. There's no two ways about that. And the Ark Royal is no exception. In fact, if anything, the Ark Royal suffers more from that because of her aircraft speed, even with all of the survivability pumped into her. But when she is put into a top tier scenario, she is probably the most capable of any of the tier 6 aircraft carriers in game, and certainly far more capable than any of the tech tree aircraft carriers at tier 6, just because of her single strike power. Now, granted, again, she has slow aircraft, but if you pull all the speed out of these aircraft that you can, again, they can actually be reasonably quick enough to be viable threats over the course of a match. So, I would definitely say anybody who's been kind of giving the Ark Royal a rough time of it, just because of what it is, really hasn't played around with this aircraft carrier too much, I don't think. They're going on that knee-jerk instinct that, oh, she's slow, her aircraft are slow, her aircraft don't have a whole lot of survivability, oh, well, then that must make her the worst right off the bat. In my experience, she's actually better than the Ryujo. Hell, I've had a couple of matches in this operation here. Granted, this isn't against players, again. And it is like optimized scenario for this aircraft carrier, I might add too, so there's also that to consider. But this match was phenomenal. I almost do 200,000 points worth of damage. There is another match that I've had, which I will give a little bit of a snippet later on, where, yeah, I more than exceeded 200,000 damage for the match as an aircraft carrier. In fact, I'll even go so far as to say that just last night, late night match, I was running through this operation also trying to build up Commander EXP for the new directive of the Regia Marina, and believe it or not, I was sharing the map with Little White Mouse, and she was running the Ark Royal, and I would not be surprised at all, given how much she did over the course of that match, to find out that she did some 250,000 damage to enemy ships. And honestly, it was not exactly the greatest match for the rest of the team either, from my perspective, just because she was utterly dominating everything. I mean, hell, she was doing attack runs substantially better than I ever will. That's for damn certain. So, I mean, in the right hands, this aircraft carrier is actually far more of a powerhouse than I think a lot of people are willing to even remotely give it credit for. So, yeah, to not put too fine a point on it, when I do pull her out in the right circumstances, I do have a good chunk of fun playing with the Ark Royal. And she is definitely a beast in the Tier 6 scenarios that do not have a whole lot of AA going around. She will shred any lower tier ship that comes into her path, especially lower tier battleships. I mean, hell, that's where the vast majority of my damage over the course of all of the operation runs that I've done over the last couple of days have actually come from, is Koenigs, the Ishizuchis, Miyogis. I mean, or the Kawachi, I think there's one that pops up in this match. And hell, even these Kohlbergs that are here and there. The Nassau at the start of this match. As long as you can get in a good solid run on any of the battleships, oh my god, you tear them apart. Because they really do not have enough functional AA to do a damn thing to you. The only thing that I think would really cause any substantial amounts of damage would be if a proper Tier 6 or Tier 7 cruiser was thrown in. And to that end, one of the matches that I had did go nearly all the way to the end of the match, as far as a timeout perspective. And in the extreme later stages of the match, you actually have a Nuremberg that spawns actually right about where you see me on the map as it is. And that is probably the most AA you actually run into over the course of this match. And yeah, it does a number on me. But again, that's equal tier cruiser that pops into a scenario where I actually was pretty close to it at the time. I really could not avoid it either. If I had been able to work my way around it at all, I would have not taken a whole lot of damage, just because everything else in this match, or everything else in this operation, really doesn't even come close by comparison. So, yeah. I mean, okay, even if you don't enjoy playing with the Ark Royal from the perspective of messing with her in matches, actual co-op battle matches, or even PvE, PvP matches, she is a phenomenal ship for those of you who enjoy going into scenarios with. If you can even just get the simple basics of aircraft carrier control under your belt, you can have incredibly phenomenal matches in her. So yeah, that's just something to kind of have in the back of your mind. But she's definitely not a ship that will sit at the back of your port forever, like some people suggest if you do pick her up. She does have value under the right circumstances. And if you enjoy occasionally going into scenarios, especially the Tier 6 scenarios, like Aegis, as I posted previously, or in Operation Killer Whale, she is an incredibly strong ship, very capable of doing the job and coming out with very solid numbers overall. So, I mean, even if you don't want to take her into direct matches, consider her maybe as something that you want to use for scenarios, because she is an exceptional viable option, as long as you know how to use her right and learn how to use her properly. As far as using her in Operation Killer Whale, if you launch aircraft right at the start of the match, you can get the early strike in on the Karlsruhe that's in the port before it even really starts moving. In fact, I've had a couple of matches where I've just completely destroyed it outright before it even really starts being active at all. And then you can just go around and farm damage basically on anything else that's in that harbor. You can get spotting in on the destroyer that's towards the south there, or you can move over, you can start going after the berthed Koenig or Koenig Albert. Maybe even get pot shots in on the Cimarron civil ships that are sitting in the port. There's all kinds of different things you can do. In fact, there were even a couple of matches where I took it entirely upon myself to harvest the mission-relevant ships that popped up to the north, where there was absolutely nobody else really in that direction, or maybe there was somebody who was going off in that direction, but it was going to take them time to get there, and I just head up in that direction and at least soften the targets up for them. So I mean, there's definitely all kinds of different things that you can do, and the big thing is whatever you do, you either have to make your contributions count, or you can make your contributions in such a way where the targets for your attacks are at least softened enough where the rest of the team can take them out. You do not have to be the one to finish off enemy ships. As long as the team as a whole benefits, all you have to do is soften them up and the team can finish them off. And you'll notice that that's actually something that I end up doing a lot over the course of the match that you've been seeing. I mean, yeah, where I can, I go for kill shots. But what I end up doing a lot more is I'll drop on one target, then I'll move and drop on another target, and then I'll move and drop on a separate target. Where my damage, yeah, it's spread out quite substantially. But ultimately, the reason my damage numbers are so high is because I am spreading it out, and my involvement in the match is a lot higher because what I'm doing is actually softening targets for my team instead of just going for as much damage as I possibly can on the targets that I want to kill. Now, granted, if I'm fully intent on killing a target in the Ark Royal, I am more than capable of doing it. All I have to do is turn around and turn around and turn around on that target as many times as I damn well please. Because, again, the AA that you face in this match, in this operation, really is not much of a threat to your ship. I mean, hell, even the Königsberg here is probably one of the only ships that really is a viable AA threat against me. And, I mean, as long as I'm getting close enough to it where I'm not really subject to flak bursts, it really doesn't have a whole lot that it can do to me. Why? It's a Tier 5 cruiser. Granted, it's a Tier 5 AA cruiser, but it still has to work at doing damage to me. And as long as I dodge the AA, or stay within its mid to short range AA bubble where it can't really hit me with flak bursts, my aircraft get out of there just fine. I only lost one torpedo aircraft in that entire little bit that Königsberg was present on the map. So, yeah, very, very capable of just getting out of dodge very quickly. And I've definitely started loving playing this aircraft carrier. In fact, I've even actually started trying to make sure that I get as much Commander EXP into her Captain as I can, because I want to max out this Captain so that I can start actually using her to farm Elite Commander EXP when the Tier 6 operations come around, because this is probably the most fun ship I've had in Tier 6 operations so far. Even the Mutsu doesn't compare. And by the way, as I promised, there's the damage tally for the 206,000 damage match that I had. Yes, it is zoomed in. I only really wanted to show you that section of the screen. But trust me, that is in fact a match from the Ark Royal, and this was later in the match. My team decided to bail out early, so we even only got 4 stars for that match, and I was at 206,000 points. If we had gotten 5 stars, my earnings would have been incredible for that past match. But anyway, the match that you have been watching was 5 stars, though it was only 172,000 damage, but it was probably the best earning match I have had so far, with 601,291 credits, almost 17,000 EXP, and 16,150 free EXP. Got the Tactical Expertise, C-Star, Assistant, and Assistant medals for this match. 39 torpedo hits, 15 ship spottings, 4 direct kills, 6 floods, number of incapacitations on ships as well. I mean, this was a phenomenal match, and as I'm sure you all noticed, the only thing that I was doing was going around spamming my torpedo aircraft. If that says anything about how little aircraft I was losing over the course of this match, that I was able to consistently continue relying on the torpedo bombers alone to do anything over the course of the match. So yeah, there is that to be said. Final team score, 1619 base EXP for everything that I did. I certainly worked for it, and I definitely think the rest of the team did very well as well. In finishing off some of the targets that I softened up for them, and overall, I mean, it's not often that you get out of this operation with a full team intact, hell. So there's a lot to be said there. And I mean, yeah, you can see my damage was very, very spread out across multiple targets here. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. In fact, I was very deliberately spreading my damage out as much as I could, again, to soften up targets as much as I could for the rest of my team. Where I knew I had to go for kills, yeah, I was pushing them hard and I was making sure that they were done and gone. But ultimately, my goal, my desire was just to do as much to support the team as possible, and I definitely made that my goal, and I certainly succeeded at it. And ultimately, over the entire course of that, 15, 20 minutes, 16 minutes, whatever it was, I only lost 5 torpedo bombers. Yeah. I have invested a lot in the survivability of these aircraft, to say the least, so definitely not. And here's the other thing, with the exception of that one Kolberg where I only hit 1 torpedo, I averaged at least 2 torpedo hits on something. The Kawachi, that's easily 2 torpedoes there. The Königsberg, that's 2 torpedoes. And then, of course, there's probably 3 on that Koenig, 3 on the Kaiser, another 3 or 4 on the Koenig Albert. I mean, I'm no slouch when it comes to making sure I get my torpedoes on target. 575,000 credits earned for the match, with only 26,000 credits in takeaway from service and resupply. And as I was pointing out, using this match to farm Commander EXP, that's 46,308 Commander experience points earned for this match, for the Commander. In fact, in the last 2 or 3 days, I think I've popped like 6 points onto this Commander. So, yeah, he is definitely becoming a very healthy Ark Royal Commander, and I am very happy to continue building him up and just making him that much more lethal overall. But anyway, I suppose I shall go ahead and let everybody go. I hope you all have enjoyed this match. I hope you all have found it informative regarding some of the capabilities of the Ark Royal in this scenario particularly. And I hope that if you're new to my channel, you do not forget to like and subscribe. Certainly trying to climb the YouTube ranks in that regard. And any subscriptions are very much appreciated. Anyway, on that note, I shall go ahead and let you all go, and I wish you all happy hunting.